Today I have another guest video for you, and in a second I'm going to introduce you to Maddy and Alex, who run a music marketing agency here in the UK called Burstimo, and they're going to take you through the process of releasing and then marketing your first ever release, your debut release, and making sure that gets as much traction as possible.
We're Burstimo, a music marketing channel that helps artists to promote their music. We're actually a marketing agency who work with emerging artists, major label artists as well, to help them get more engagement surrounding their music and them as an artist. So today we're actually going to be talking about debut releases, because Rob mentioned that a lot of you haven't actually released yet, or you're in those early stages. So let's talk about how to actually take that first release, those first few releases, and how you're actually meant to push that out to an audience, because many of you may not actually have that audience there yet. So where do we want to start with that?
I think firstly, one of the things we really push is single releases. So a lot of artists will go straight for albums. I'd say you save an album release for literally almost years down the line. And Maddy here does a lot of videos on our YouTube channel about release timelines. And I think that's a great place to start in terms of how long do you need to start promoting pre-release, after release, how long do you give it until you move on to the next release? So when do you actually start promoting a track?
Yeah, well, we find that with singles, obviously you've only got one product to actually push out there, rather than an album where you've got all of these songs. You sort of have to just pick one to pitch to places. But with the single, you've got that one thing that you can really push to the media, to your audience, to your target audience. So giving that month prior to release allows you to actually work on that release, pitch it to people, tease it a little bit to your existing audience, test it with that target audience. So a month is probably the best timeline for that. Also with Spotify as well.
And Spotify especially, if you want to get on Spotify official playlist, the best way, all of our artists do it, they go onto the Spotify for Artists app and submit via the form. It's simply artist.spotify.com. It's quite a difficult one for a debut release. If you've never released before, a lot of artists do struggle because you don't get a profile. What we do suggest is either pushing your distributor to get the track uploaded to Spotify as early as possible. So it's not released, but as early as possible. If your distributor is not able to do that, I say upload a donor track, a track that you're not too bothered about. It wasn't really going to make it, and just upload it. You've got no fan base, so just upload it, and then you'll get the Spotify for Artists profile, and you go things seriously from there.
The submission is pretty simple, isn't it? It's tick boxes saying what your genre is, where you're from, all things like that. But the little pitch section is incredibly difficult for a debut artist, because what do you say? There's no credibility there, because you haven't been featured in blogs, you haven't got radio coverage yet. What would you say is the best route to go down for a debut?
A debut release description, describe the track, describe what you are as an artist, location, where you're from. There are a lot of tick boxes where you tick the genre, you tick where you're from, the feel of the track. Artists often think the more you tick, the more chance you're going to get on an official playlist. However, that can often hinder your chances because you're just too broad. So if you take the right combination and you're very niche, then you'll end up on a niche playlist, because it's so difficult to get your first Spotify official playlist. But we find with our artists, once you're on one, they kind of roll in. If your track is good enough, then the curators will be considering your track.
Yeah, so 4 weeks before release, we always suggest is the best timeline for that. But also those 4 weeks work perfectly for pitching to press, pitching to radio. And the reason for that is because if you're pitching pre-release, it gives the journalist time to A, listen to the release, B, decide if they actually like it, and then C, cover it. And you want things to run either pre-release as a bit of a teaser to preview the track, or premiere it, which basically means that blog has exclusivity over the track, or you want things to run on release day, just after release with the live link. If you're pitching something well after release, journalists just aren't going to be interested, because they've got more things coming through that are brand new. So 4 weeks prior is perfect to that. You just get a press release written up, you pitch that to the media, and it can be pretty simple stuff, just explaining why you wrote the track, what it's about, who's featured in it, where you produced it, all things like that work perfectly for it because it's just giving a bit of background. But Submit Hub can be a good one for that as well.
I think Submit Hub is an amazing resource. If you don't know what Submit Hub is, it is where you buy credits and you pay to submit to blogs. And the bloggers and the journalists, they get paid for considering your track and potentially giving you feedback on the track or writing about your track. And it's just a great place to start building a buzz. And I know we've mentioned Spotify official playlist quite a lot so far. However, press does help, especially if you're wondering what to put in that pitch form and you've got yourself a premiere on a blog, then that is going to help your pitch because you can say this track is going to be premiered here, it's going to be featured here and played on radio here, which I think is a good segue onto radio.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the press stuff though,
Yeah.
we agree that blogs don't get the readers like they used to. We know that, but it does act as credibility just because the music industry is oversaturated with music right now. To stand out, you need to have people backing it who are credible sources. So blogs, radio station, obviously radio do still have listeners, but it still acts as credibility. Those playlists obviously act as credibility. Even having well-known artists just putting on social media that they support you acts as credibility because the industry is a little bit sheepish in that way, where you don't want to be the first person to shout about an artist. You want to sort of know that they've got that support around them already. So that's why the blog coverage can help. But yeah, radio is something that you can do from early stages, especially if you're an English artist, because BBC Introducing is fantastic for that. You can literally just upload it to the BBC Introducing website, you write a short bio, and they listen to every single submission. You'll get emailed when they listen, emailed if it is added to the show that week. So that's a great way to sort of get coverage as well.
The same? It's just for press and radio, is it the same kind of pitch?
Yeah, I mean, you're still pitching with the press release to give the producers, the presenters, a bit of information. But radio is a bit more difficult because with press, you can Google a publication, you can go to the contact form. Yeah, it might be a form or an info app, but at least you know you're sending it somewhere. With radio, they don't often have that contact form on the website because it's a radio station. Why would they? Often you're going to have to do a bit of a deep dive on social media for this one. So find the right producers, find the presenter. There might be a certain DJ that works that show, and you're going to have to try and find that email, maybe DM them as well. Make sure not to go anywhere near personal accounts because people don't like that. But if they've got a professional account they use for the radio show, definitely DM that. But the pitch is exactly the same, but you do need a download link in that because they're going to want to actually be able to play the track.
Do you feel like artwork is important? What is important to these radio stations and bloggers?
Yeah, I think often people forget the importance of just basic press shots and artwork because if you're pitching your release to someone, even Spotify as well, they want to see that that person has an artistic vision that matches the sound of the track as well. It needs to have that overall branding, and I think that's something we'll probably discuss in a little bit, the branding of an artist. But with that debut release, you want to really go in heavy with your look and how you want to present yourself as an artist. So the artwork's such a simple way to do that. If that's the colours, whether that's you're in the picture, the clothes you're wearing, the font that you use, all of these things are so important. And when someone first opens a press release or opens that email, that main press shot can take up the majority of the actual email. And if that doesn't match their publication, so if you're a heavy rock band and you're sending them pictures where it's quite an elegant photo, they're probably not as likely to feature you. So I think artwork and press shots are an important one to think about as well.
And also moving on to that in terms of branding is social media.
Yeah.
And social media has got just so important in an artist's career. We're working with artists right now where they're coming back and saying, cool, a major label wants to sign me, but I've got no engagement on my social media. I've got the streams, I've got the brand, I've got amazing songs, and they won't sign me because I've got no engagement. And I think, firstly, with social media, the numbers aren't engagement. So if you've got 10,000 followers, but only 50 people are liking your photos or you're getting no comments, then that's not a fan base. That is just numbers. So that's my first point for social media. Secondly, it's content. And I find a lot of artists, they worry too much about kind of
Looking good.
just looking good all of the time and not creating content, and they wonder why their followers aren't going up. So artists will worry that their music is what is going to drive the followers up. And it's not. If someone goes to your profile because they like your music and you're not posting on social media, your Instagram is just empty, then they're not going to click the follow button. You have to ask yourself, why would someone follow my account? It's just pretty pictures. It's the same photos that I saw on the Instagram bio, on the Spotify bio when I went to find your Instagram. So you need some kind of variation, something extra, and something that people really want to follow.
Yeah, and not always does the content have to match the music so much.
Yeah.
There are plenty of artists that have a content strategy which isn't very similar to their music, but it pushes people to the music. There's sort of two ways. It can be people coming from the Spotify and then they go to the social media, and that can sometimes be harder for artists because it means that they've got a fan, they've got a listener, but they haven't got an engaged fan. And that can be incredibly hard because we've worked with artists before that have millions and millions of streams, and they're saying, we have no fans, we can't sell out small venues. And this happens so often because if you're on a playlist, that doesn't mean you're getting legitimate fan engagement, it just means you're getting listeners. So the content strategy just needs to be something that's adding value to that audience, whether that's really kind of teenagers, that could be your target audience, or it could be middle-aged men. Like, you never know which audience you're focusing on, but that content strategy needs to work for that specific age range, gender, all of those things need to match. So it's definitely worth sitting down and actually thinking, what do these people want to know about me? What do these people take in? Just looking at that target audience and seeing what sort of people they engage with anyway.
And you can use Facebook ads, Instagram ads in order to get more followers. I think that's an awesome way. Hashtags, I get this question a lot, whether hashtags are effective. I personally think they don't. You just get bot comments and bot likes now from hashtags. But using ads is a great way to organically get people to your profile. And don't just mindlessly hit the promote button on the Instagram app, because all that really does is just promote your latest post. You've got to firstly do everything we've talked about before by getting your content up and getting a reason for people to follow. No point getting people to your account and you're just wasting all of your money if there's nothing to follow. Then the ad you run itself, it's not like a polished promo video. It's not just like the artwork and your track and you hope that someone's going to come and follow. You need something that is going to be native to the platform. So if you're running it on Instagram stories or Instagram feed, something that people will scroll and it will usually show up on their feed, and something similar to their friends, what their friends would actually post, and then people aren't going to scroll past it. So don't worry about production quality, worry about the content and the value you are adding in this ad, because you've bought space on someone's feed. So justify it, justify why you are there and why they should take notice of you by giving them something, whether it's entertainment, whether it's a story, just a reason for them to want to see more of you. And then they go to your account, see something that has a huge amount of content they want to see. And that is how you convert people using ads to actually becoming a fan and a follower. And then they'll go and listen to your music.
What's great about the position the majority of you are probably in is you don't have a huge amount of followers right now. And that actually works in your favor because it gives you a chance to experiment. When you first start an Instagram account, you have the chance to be able to try different visuals, to try different colors, to try different the way you format a post can be different. You might want to try speaking to the camera, and because there aren't that many people there currently, you can play around with that and see how it goes. When artists are sort of looking at the hundreds of thousands of followers, if they suddenly change their content strategy, it could be really risky. But the position you're in is great because it means you can play around with it a bit. But what's quite important in these early stages is just not seeing Instagram as an opportunity to just spam people with your release. So often we'll post something on our Instagram and majority of the comments will be people being like, listen to my track, stream my song, link in my bio. And why would we do that? We're on Instagram for a reason, not to listen to some random song that hasn't added any value to us. So that's one to definitely stay clear of.
Yeah, learn to sell your music. Learn to like write a piece of copy which persuades someone to listen to your track. There are just 50,000 tracks uploaded to Spotify every single day. You got to learn to stand out, and you don't do that by like following and unfollowing. I know this is a popular technique to get your followers up, but they're just numbers. They've only just followed you because you followed them, and they don't want you to unfollow. So that is just numbers, and it's actually hindering your kind of how far your account can go, because your engagement levels will be low. So if you've got 7,000 followers and you followed and unfollowed and only get 30 likes on a post, Instagram's going to think that your content is terrible and nobody wants to see it, so it's not going to push it out.
I think that's basically covering a lot of things that you'll need to think about with your debut release. We've had to squish a lot of information into a very short video, so if you're looking for more information on marketing a debut release, or perhaps you're further along in your career, we cover kind of all areas in that. So make sure to subscribe to our channel, and if you found this useful, we also do shorter videos on Instagram as well, so you can follow us on there.